I think I agree that that helped me a lot too. Just sampling photos, just to see like what color, like like let's say the underside of a cloud, the shadow side, you might think it's blue, but in some cases you sample it and it's like more towards the green side of the hue. So sometimes you see colors, but your perception of color is skewed by all the colors around it.
Exactly. This is an example that I like to show students. This was from some reference I found on DeviantArt, I think, and I changed it a little bit. You know, I went more monochromatic than I think it was. But the point being, this was one of the first times that I got it, where it's relatively a monochromatic piece. You know, it's mostly like yellows and oranges. Now this model has blue eyes. So when I painted this, like I had a hard time figuring out what to paint with, because the first thing I did was I went straight in, selected blue, and painted. But if if you look at this and I ask you what color are those eyes, and it obviously depends on the monitor and color syncing, depending on what monitor you're looking at this from. But to your eye, to the brain, they read as blue. But if you go in closely and you pick this, it's actually
it's like a red or an orange.
Right. Or I think when I was originally doing it, the colors I selected, because when you blend it, it changes. The colors I selected were really desaturated light yellow. Yeah. Because color itself, and this is another really important fundamental, that color only exists in relation to other colors.
Yeah.
Another example I like to show a lot is this. One second. Here it is. Is this Assassin's Creed thing that I did a couple years ago, and this could be an entire lecture on color theory. But to condense it, there's this thing called local color, which Gurney does an awesome job explaining. Where if I asked you what color is the American flag, you would say red, white, and blue. Whereas in the natural world, things aren't that pure. So for example, this right here is like a sunset environment. So when you look at this American flag, these quote-unquote white stripes, the parts of them that are in the sunlight, you've got oranges, you've got yellows, a little bit of red, and then the parts of that white stripe that are facing away from that light source are cool because they're reflecting the sky. It's cool reflected light and shadow. So you've got blues and purples. There is no white in this scene, and where it really gets interesting, we're talking about the blue part of the American flag. The blue top where you've got the stars. There is no blue in this. It's all reds and desaturated reds to make them look like blue, maybe getting a little bit closer to purple, but not really. But it's your brain that tells you, because you have all these colors in the same scene, that relative to one another, they read a certain way even if they're not. So that's the biggest thing that kind of helped me to get it. That color only exists in relation to other color. I'm going to shut up. What were you saying?
And I think the background helps that too, because a lot of those colors in the flag were kind of gray, and gray tends to kind of be influenced by the environment colors. So your eye might see more blue in that gray, even though it's actually gray.
Absolutely. All right, now start again. Okay, now look at the gray dot in the middle until I tell you to stop. Okay, just focus on that. Really focus. Let the images bleed into your eyes. You ready? Don't look away. I'm going to do something, but only look at the gray dot in the middle. Don't move your eyes. You ready? Now look.
Whoa!
That was weird. I don't like it. I don't like it.
So what it's doing, what I did was I took all these colors, I desaturated them, and now it's all grayscale. But what your eye is doing is when you switch to grayscale, your brain gets confused. So it's actually turning those grays into the complements of the colors underneath them. So when I swap to grayscale, this yellow becomes violet, this violet becomes yellow, the red becomes green, blue becomes orange, etc. So it's really kind of crazy to see this stuff about how your eyes.
Yeah, I think I saw something. I think I saw something where, like, if you stare at the yellow burns into your eye, and then once it's removed, you see the opposite of that color.
Yes.
So yeah, so in HSV color, this might be a good thing to mention. When you're looking at a color wheel on a computer, the relation of colors is entirely different than if you got a painter's color wheel. Like on a computer, blue would be the opposite of yellow. On a painter's color wheel, I believe it's orange and yellow.
Right.
So that might be something that confuses people, but that's good to know because if you're painting with blue and yellow together and you're getting gray and you're wondering why you're getting gray, it's because that's the way that particular color model works.
Right. And another thing, we're talking about complementary colors. I'm trying to think how I can do this. When you add complementary colors to one another, so let's say I take, and this is with real pigment, I think it also works with digital, but when you take red and you take its complement green and you combine them evenly, you get neutral gray. Yes.
Okay, so we have the color picker in Painter, which is very helpful because it has the complementary colors across from each other.
Mm.
So if we take blue, and we'll verify that this is blue because it's at 0 and we have a scale of 255, so we'll put down some blue and we'll take a yellow, which will be 128 if we want to get very specific about it being the exact color. And
well, those are not complements. I think those are going by maybe RG. I don't know, depending on the color mode.
But yeah, it's HSV
right.
color, not. So if you zoom in, you'll start to see all I did was just do a light layer of yellow, and it starts to blend naturally. And if you sample using the color picker, you'll see as it starts to transition. If you watch over here, it starts to basically just move towards neutral. It hits neutral, and then it starts to double back the other direction. So these colors are, in HSV color theory, these colors are complementary to each other. On a painter's color wheel with subtractive color, it's completely different. That would be, I believe it would be orange and blue would be complementary to each other.
Yeah, and another thing, because I had never actually, for whatever reason, I never heard of those terms until recently. So subtractive that's pigment. What it means is, you're subtracting, so the more color you add, you're subtracting until you get to black, which is the absence of color, whereas digital is additive because it's light. So the more colors you add, you're getting closer and closer. You're adding until you get closer to white. So light, the color of light is additive. Pigment is subtractive.
Yeah.